Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. We are Group 17, reporting Chapter 17, titled Trends and Issues in Teaching Learners with Difficulty with Self-Care. So, in this chapter, many studies have found that learners with and without disabilities were proved to have a higher achievement and improved skills through inclusive education. Furthermore, having separate environments provide a context of exclusion of those who fail to reach the average learning and behavioral characteristic expected of them. Exclusion makes learners without disabilities and even teachers to frame the capabilities of learners with disabilities, which produce low self-determination and self-esteem among learners with disabilities. In this chapter, studies about inclusion among learners with disabilities will be discussed to help present a picture of the effect of inclusion among different learners. To implement inclusion is to first understand the meaning of inclusion. The most parent education conceptualization at this point in time is based on a UNESCO Report 26 that states that inclusive education is the sole process of ensuring that all learners are the same educational opportunities as their same age peers. Literature would show that inclusion is providing all educational service to students with disabilities in a general education setting. Idle 1997. Similarly, inclusion is about full membership of an age-appropriate class in the local school, doing the same lessons as other pupils. Hall in Florian, 2005. The UNESCO has made clear its stand on what educational system need to provide and according to the organization. Education is not simply about making schools available for those who are already able to access them. It is about being proactive in identifying the barriers and obstacles learners encounter in attempting to access opportunities for quality education, as well as in removing those barriers and obstacles that lead to exclusion. UNESCO 2016, page 5. This barrier may be classified as ad- attitudinal and environmental barriers according to the 2011 World Report on Disabilities, World Health Organization 2011. Environmental barriers include inaccessible policies, information and service delivery provisions, while barriers include negative attitude, negative imagery and language, stereotypes, stigma, and discrimination. Therefore, inclusion is the process that helps overcome barriers limiting the presence, participation, and achievement of learners. In UNESCO 2007, page 13. There is not a single agreed definition of inclusion, and based on Howard Albes Morgan and Conrad 2017, there was no clear consensus that exists in the field about the meaning of inclusion. And with the above definition, inclusion would mean full-time placement of students with disabilities in regular classrooms, but others may read inclusion as any degree of integration of learners with disabilities into the mainstream classroom. Ultimately, the way inclusion is defined affect the way it is interpreted and implemented. And with any interpretation, it is essential to see the effect of inclusion on both regular and learners with disabilities. So, kung sinasabi po dun is, um, inclusion education is the most effective way to ensure that all children have an equal opportunity to attend school, learn, and develop the skills they require to thrive. Inclusive system recognize the unique contribution that students from all backgrounds bring to the classroom and allow diverse group to grow alongside one another to benefit of education. to benefit of all. When it is combined with education, it improve it greater and the skill level of those with and without disabilities increases. Because as exclusive education demonstrate the learnings or skills those with disabilities or learns becomes like parang bonsai, ganun. Hindi masyadong lumalago. Kumbaga nai-stuck lang po sa ganong learnings sa exclusive sa pagde-demonstrate po nito, sa pinapakita po nito. There is a negative effect on oneself that causes low self-esteem, low self-determination. So in this chapter, we will demonstrate that the impact of learning through inclusive education on with and without disabilities. Sa education po kasi na to, hindi lamang to patungkol sa paggawa ng paaralan, to create schools. Siyempre magagamit din po ito para magkaroon ng access yung mga hindi lang para sa mga walang disabilities, kundi patungkol din to sa may yung mga hadlang at balakid ng kinakaharap ng isang mag-aaral. Ito naman sa next slide, the finding from large number of research studies show positive effect of inclusion listed below. First bullet, a higher expectation for student learning. Jurgensen, Makshihan, and Sonimeri, 2007. Heightened, engage affective the minor and participation in integrated social activities. Hunt, Ferron Davis, Beckstead, Curtis, and Goetz, 1994. Next bullet, improve communication and social skills. Buckelman and Miranda, 2005. Fishers and Mayer, 2002. Makshihan, Sonermir, and Jorgensen, 2009. Soto, Miller, Hunt, and Joyce, 2001. More satisfying and diverse social relationships. Goralnik, Connor, Hammond, Goatman, and Kinish, 1996. Better academic outcomes and the areas of literacy and mathematics. Cole, Waldron, and Mudge, 2004. Kassir, Coston, Tioharis, and Tioharis, 2013. Demostis, Desimontil, Bless. And Morin, 2012. Court and Master George, 2010. Rendak, Alpier, Ward, Storch, and Montgomery, 2010. Rendak, Morrison, and Somerstein, 1999. Lesser absences from school and referrals for this disruptive behavior. Helmstetter, Curry, Brennan, and Samson, Seoul, 1998. Achievement of more IEP goals. Brinker and Thorpe, 1984. Enhance adult outcomes in the areas of post-secondary education, employment, and independence. White and Wiener, 2004. The rationale for inclusion is also supported by the fact that no studies conducted since the late 1970s have shown an academic advantage for students with disabilities in separate settings. Falvey, 2004. In fact, studies have shown some negative effects of separate special education placement. Coston, Theoharis, Ostati, and Cosset, 2011. Fisher, Sachs, Rodifer, and Pampia, 1999. Hans and Farron Davis, 1992. Myoga and Ichiba, 2011, report that the general education teachers are not prepared to handle students with disabilities in their class due to the fact that there was no mandatory course or training in both their in-service and pre-service teacher education institutes. On another study done in the pre-service level, Boston 2012 revealed that having one course on special education helps pre-service teachers prove their attitudes toward inclusion, but this course nonetheless was not affect them with strategies in handling inclusion in the regular classroom.
Um, in conclusion, is not just seen as advantage to people disabilities, but also to those without disabilities. This is reflected in the findings of the following research articles. Um, Develop friendship, leadership skills, and social competency. Gaze Hard and Munch, 1996. Reduce the fear of human difference accompanied by increased comfort and awareness through Carlson and Halster in 1992. Positive growth in social cognition in Murray Sargent, 1989. And next is increased academic achievement, assignment, completion, and classroom participation. Cruising and Kennedy, 1997. Improve the attitude toward diversity. Flick Macton and Greger, 2009. And the unique opportunities for learning to reduce inequality in Fisher, Sachs, and George in 1998. Miguel and Echavia in 2011 referred that general education teachers are not prepared to handle the student with disabilities in their classes due to the fact that there was no mandatory course of training in both their in-service and pre-service teacher education institutions. On another study done in the pre-service level, Bustos in 2012 revealed that having one course of special education helped pre-service teachers prove their attitude toward inclusion, but this course nonetheless was not the effective implement them with the strategies in handling inclusion in the regular classroom. The latest educational reform in the country have focused on the inclusion of students with disabilities. In the general education settings, the policy guidelines of the K-12 basic education program or do 21 and 2019, for instance, integrates inclusive education in the K-12 curriculum, making inclusive education its core principle through this policy and inclusive framework was adopted in provide access and participation in diverse of learners. And this 3-4 concludes that there are far more benefits of the inclusion that giving separate setting for the learners with disabilities in the Philippines. The practice of inclusion is being implemented by general education teachers. However, studies reveal that this teacher seems to have difficulties in his implementation. To help answer this question, presented below in the diversity wheel, developed by Loden and Rosner in 1990, this is a framework with a concentric circle that show different dimensions of diversity within individual and institutions. So the 5 layers of diversity wheel show the complexity of the diversity filters through which people process stimuli and information. This is to show that the people in assumption drive their behavior, the impact of other people in the classroom learners. Diversity may include learners' abilities, knowledge, learning, style, study habits, interests, motivation, multiple intelligence, and belief system. So, the Universal Design for Learning UDL, as discussed in the chapter 13, present the deadline in providing multiple means. Below the of engagement, representation, and action expression below the present of the UDL guidelines by the Center of Applied Special Technology o CAS.
Good day, I'm Marita Tinajera. I am discussing the Universal Design for the Learning UDL as discussed in Chapter 13 presents deadline in providing multiple means of engagement, presentation, and action expression. Below presents the UDL guidelines by the Center for Applied Special Technology or CEST. The Universal Design for Learning, as discussed in Chapter 13, presents timeline in providing multiple ways and choices of activities, presentation, and action expression. As an educator, we need to use different ways in delivering our lessons in a way that our learners are able to actively participate and acquire knowledge that they can use in their daily lives. Below presents the UDL guidelines by the Center for Applied Special Technology class or CAST that we can use in teaching. Curriculum and learning materials in school, making sure that there are differentiated to actualize inclusion. The policy suggests strengthening contextualization of the sum of these ways is by the information content and learning materials to support understanding, amplified amplified sound and subtitles. Having a sign language interpreter in the class, providing APIC symbols with alternative text descriptions, using simpler words, and having materials enlarged or transcribed into Braille. This learning resource shall be utilized to get active participation and interaction of all learners. But how diverse our our learners? Uh, Curriculum and learning materials in school are categorized for the actualization and application of the inclusion. This policy is a strengthening of the real world. Content of these ways to ensure that all learners can access to these learning materials such as using informative video presentation, content, and learning materials to support understanding of the learners, using sound and subtitles, having a sign language interpreter in the class for the learners who can't hear, providing also an alphabet symbols with text description by using simple words that are safe to understand in large or bigger materials as much better to translate the materials into Braille. Braille is a learning material used by the blind people. They read it using their sense of touch. Next, uh, also this learning material should utilize to get an active participation and interaction of all learners. Expert learners who are purpose and motivated, resourceful and knowledgeable, strategic and goal-directed. First, provide for self-regulation, promote expectation and beliefs that optimize motivation, facilitate and personal coping skills and strategies, develop self-assessment and reflection. Next, provide options for comprehension, active or supply background knowledge, highlight patterns and critical features, big ideas, and relationships, guide information processing and visualization, and maximize transfer and generalization. Next, provide options for executive function, guide appropriate goal setting, support planning and strategy development, facilitate managing information and resources, enhance capacity for monitoring progress. Next, provide multiple means of engagement, effective network, the why of learning. Next, provide multiple means, presentation recognition network, the what of learning. Next, provide multiple means of action and expression, strategic network, that how of learning. Okay. Provide option for the recruiting and interest, optimize individual choice and autonomy, optimize relevance, value, and authenticity, minimize traits and distractions. Next, provide option for perception, offer ways of customizing the display of information, offer alternative for auditory information, offer alternatives for visual information. Next, provide option for physical action, vary the methods for response and navigation, optimize access to tools and assistive technologies. The next, through this approach, students will be given alternatives in the class requirements for rate, timing, and use of motor movements. They could also be given different options in presenting their outputs, such as using multiple media, text, speech, drawings, storyboards, films, physical manipulatives, or your blocks. Social media and other interpretative tools also be given individual choice and autonomy in pursuing class outputs and activities. This way, learners improve their self-sufficiency and independence while having to the collaborative with others. Um, Through this approach, students will have an alternative for their class requirements and class standing and grades. Learners have a different option to choose from. uh, how can they present their outputs to the class using multiple media such as text, speed, drawings, storyboards, films, and etc. They can also use physical activities. They also have a personal choice in doing or making uh, outputs and activities through their learners will improve their self-sufficiency and independence while they are interacting with others. That's all. Thank you.